Hello, guys. How are all of you doing? I'm Sudarshana Starshine Star. Welcome. If you're not listening to this podcast on my YouTube channel, which is called It's the Dazzling of the Light, now you know the name of it, or you can just go to YouTube and type in at Sudarshana Starshine Star to access my, now it will be over 300 clips there. Most are podcast audios, a few are actual videos of me speaking, so you can see that on the short playlist I made there. I like to begin all of my clips with the three opening prayers, which are in Sanskrit and Telugu, and they are short. And it's the Guru Mantra, the Ganesha Mantra, and the Gayatri Mantra. So before I do that, let me give the date. It's a beautiful Tuesday, and I said Tuesday. It's Thursday. It's a beautiful Thursday, and it's January 22nd, 2026. I command on the sacred blood of Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, to wash over all of us, pouring over all of us blessing, protecting, guiding, uplifting, healing, enriching, purifying. All of us, all of our beloveds, that's our human beloveds and our animal beloveds. Jesus the Christ, please cast out the spirit of pain, cast out the spirit of fear, cast out the spirit of lack, cast out the spirit of low self-confidence, low self-esteem, self-dislike, self-hatred, or the projection of that onto anybody else. Cast out the spirit of ill health. Cast out all doubt, worry, confusion, fogginess, mental illness, negative illusions and delusions. Thank you, Yeshua. Please cast out all negativity in thought, word, and deed, all negative memories. Yeshua, send your healing presence now. Please heal the wounds in our souls. Yeshua, we receive your healings and your blessings now. Thank you so much. Amen. Svaha. I also command on the beautiful sacred presence of Mother Mary to be here with us in this eternal moment, ever more presently and fully and completely, to embrace us with your truly loving, gentle, yet fiercely protective, true mother's arms. And bless us, Mother Mary. Uplift us, Mother Mary. Gentle us, Mother Mary. Strengthen us, Mother Mary, and love us, Mother Mary. Thank you so much. Amen. Svaha. Now to the prayers. Om, 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 Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshvara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmahi Sri Guruve Namaha. Om Shuklam Paratarma Vishnu Sashivarnam Chatobhujam Prasanavaranam Dhyaye Sarva Vignopashantaye. Om Bhurbuva Suvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhako Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Excellent. Well, I think I'm going to call this podcast, I'm going to call it UN Squashed by Board of Peace. Exclamation point, exclamation point. Yes, it's a very amazing topic. I saw this earlier today by Dr. Steve Turley. And I think it's pretty good. I'm going to be giving my points on a few of the things. And I'm going to say, because after this, I have several podcasts lined up to do. And on the topic that I'll be discussing here, I want to go deeper than what Dr. Steve is talking about here. Because as my Swami would say, it's a depth topic. But let's just start off with this. He titled his clip, "You Won't Believe What Trump Just Did to the UN." Okay, and here's Dr. Steve talking. What if I told you that while you were sleeping last night, Donald Trump just replaced the UN, the United Nations? Not metaphorically, not eventually. He's already doing it right now in Davos, with a signing ceremony with 36 countries attending. $1 billion price tags for permanent membership. This isn't some future policy proposal. This is happening right now as we speak. And the UN's replacement is an organization, an international organization that Donald Trump will head for life. You are not going to believe this. It's being called the Board of Peace. 30 plus nations assembled to be, in the words of Donald Trump, quote, one of the most consequential bodies ever created, end quote. Countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Turkey, Egypt, Hungary, Belarus, all part of a new international order that even now is sidelining the liberals in Europe. As if they weren't embarrassed enough by basically losing Greenland, the globalist elites in France, Norway, Sweden, Germany, the UK, well, they're sulking. They're all refusing to join. And listener, I want to interrupt here and say, by global elite, just read satanics. Read globalista satanics that have been part and parcel of the very negative dark force that's been allowed to rule and control this earth realm for thousands of years. Yes, thousands of years. That's why this is so far beyond politics. It's really so far beyond politics. But that agenda that we find with what are called I like calling them globalistas, but the global elites, they call themselves elites, they hate humanity. They think that we're just useless eaters. They call us that to our faces. Sheep, cattle, that's what Goya means. And this is the end of that dark reign. So this is such an exciting time to be alive, listener, even though it's very rocking and rolling, the ups and downs, the ups and downs, the ups and downs. I know, and I get it, and I experience it myself. But we are really in such a momentous time that we haven't been in such an incredible timeline since really we were in the Garden of Eden on that timeline. This is how earth realm shattering and shaking and momentous this time is. And we all chose to be here. We all incarnated to be here at this time. And even though nothing was guaranteed, we knew pretty much what we were stepping up to be part of. And so welcome. Let me go back to this reading. They're all refusing to join. By contrast, and not coincidentally at the same time, this is happening in Davos. In Moscow, Russian President Vladimir Putin was meeting with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas at the Kremlin. Putin has been invited to join the board and has already committed $1 billion to the project. So here's how President Trump described his vision for the Board of Peace. President Trump. Everybody wants to be on it, but yeah, I have some controversial people on it. But these are people that get the job done. These are people that have tremendous influence. And if you know, if I put all babies on the board, there wouldn't be very much. So he was invited. He's accepted. Many people have accepted. I don't know of anybody that hasn't accepted, but it's going to be great. I think the Board of Peace will be the most prestigious board ever. And it's going to get a lot of work done that the United Nations should have done. And we'll work with the United Nations. But the Board of Peace is going to be special. We're going to have peace. It started off with Gaza, the Middle East. We've got peace in the Middle East. Nobody thought that was possible. And that happened by taking out the Iran nuclear threat. Without that, it could never have happened. But the board is going to be, I think, really fantastic. And I think it'll be the most prestigious board of any board ever in world history. Thank you very much. That was the end of President Trump's soundbite there. And what I wanted to say too, listener, I've spoken about it so much, not just on my YouTube channel, but on all my social medias and everywhere. I've been speaking about it. till I'm almost blue in the face that, it really, and I've grown weary of trying to convince anybody. The evidence is all out there. The information is out there, just not using Google because that's corrupted, not looking at Wikipedia and believing that because that's corrupted. You have to use independent browsers when you want to find out real information, when you want to see real court documents, when you want to see real unclassified information, when you want to listen to and look at real deathbed confessions, when you want to hear real whistleblower testimony, when you want to see the real laws and orders. You have to use independent browsers, like Bing Brave browser. There are other browsers to use. Just don't use Google and Wikipedia, okay? That's my suggestion to you. Of course, you're free to do as you want to do about that. But the United Nations is very satanic. It has always been since its inception. The main headquarters, the land of the main headquarters in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, that land was donated by the very satanic Khazarian mafia, creepy, bloodline, globalist elite, David Rockefeller. Yes. And as I've said so often, in those United Nations headquarters, in their, quote, meditation room, there's a big black cube. Another subject that really people should be aware of by now. The big black cube is referencing satanic worship, Satan worship, Saturn worship. It's the black cube that you see on top of Saturn. Yes, you do see that on top of Saturn. Now, in a very short way, I'm going to say that Saturn itself is not evil. There is high positive and high negative on Saturn. So it is possible to get the high positive, but the evils that are satanic, that are the children of Cain, that are in those dark corrupted bloodlines and believe that they have a right to dominate all over all the earth realm and every place else, really. They worship that darkness. And that's why we have the huge black cubes right in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. That's why we have it in Mecca. I'm sorry for those that go and think they're doing production. I think they're doing pilgrimage around something sacred. The evils put that big black cube there, just like they put it in Midtown Manhattan and other places on the world. And it has nothing good about it. So look forward, just like the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed a few years ago by the White Hats. Look forward to those black cubes being dismantled. Or adjusted in some way, just like President Trump has had to not only clear out with the White Hats all the satanic tunnels underneath the White House and cover that up a lot with remodeling, but where that big new ballroom is, that also disrupted a lot of stuff that was underground. There's a lot of things going on that are not visible to the eye. And one needs to, again, like I've talked about so much on my controller series on my YouTube channel, or the Real series, what Washington, D.C. really is, how it was built very devilishly. It's like, if you look at it from an aerial view, it's a big owl, a form of Satan called Moloch, that is worshipped like the large owl that we see in Northern California and Bohemian Grove. And on our $1 bill, there's a tiny little owl peeking out from the one in the corners. You need to look at it through a magnifying glass. But not that owls are evil, but the devil ones, they flip what's made by God and they make it theirs, and they invert things, and they write backwards, and they talk backwards, and they flip everything upside down and inside out. That's just a satanic nature. So the UN has always been satanic, and in that meditation room with that black cube, there's always been on the wall this big scroll that Alice Bailey has up there from the Lucis Trust. And yes, the Lucis Trust used to be openly called the Lucifer Trust or Lucifer Publishing. It was out in the open, but then it's modified to Lucis Trust. So these things are real. The United Nations has never been good. It's always been about opposing this Agenda 2021-2030 in preparation for that on humanity. And it's very good that there's an X being put through it. I'm very, very happy about that. So let me get back to this reading. So, where did I leave off? Dr. Steve, so what exactly is this Board of Peace? Well, on paper, it's supposed to oversee Gaza's reconstruction after the ceasefire. That's what was so significant about the meeting between Abbas and Putin at the Kremlin. In fact, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, has presented a master plan for the rebuilding of Gaza at Davos. Remember, Trump wants to he's absolutely serious about turning Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East. And that's exactly what they have planned. They're transforming the war-torn strip into a high-tech luxury coastal metropolis featuring beach resorts, smart infrastructure, large-scale commercial development, with estimated costs ranging from about $25 billion to over $112 billion. And of course, it does require Hamas's dematerialization as a prerequisite. But, and here's the major twist in this, which makes it so fascinating. The actual charter for the Board of Peace that Trump sent to the world leaders, it doesn't even mention Gaza. Instead, it says that the board will, quote, secure enduring peace in areas affected or threatened by conflict everywhere, end quote. Trump himself admitted it when a reporter asked if this would in effect replace the United Nations. Here's the reporter asking, do you want your Board of Peace to replace the UN? President Trump, well, it might. I mean, the UN just hasn't been very helpful. I'm a big fan of the UN potential, but it has never lived up to its potential. The UN should have settled every one of the wars that I settled. Dr. Steve. And that's key. Trump is a big supporter of the ideas of the UN, but not the UN itself. The UN itself has become a bureaucratic monstrosity. It's really nothing more than one massive USAID slush fund for left-wing NGOs. It's no longer even remotely fit for purpose. And so if we're going to have an effective international governing body that can indeed help bring peace effectively throughout the world, it's not the UN. They can't be reformed. They're going to have to be replaced. And that is exactly what Trump is envisioning for the Board of Peace. And get this, Trump is the founding chairman, and according to the charter, guess how long he holds that position? It's for life. Like a Supreme Court justice, it's a life appointment unless he voluntarily resigns or unless he's removed by unanimous decision or unanimous vote of the executive board, which, by the way, he gets to appoint. He picks who joins. He can terminate memberships. He approves all decisions. He can veto anything at any time, and he chooses his own successor. Bloomberg describes this as, quote, Trump holding ultimate world decision-making power, end quote. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Remember I mentioned Russia's pledging $1 billion for the project? Well, as it turns out, if you want to be a permanent member on the board, you do have to pay $1 billion within the first year. Otherwise, you get a 3-year term, and then you're out. It rotates. So Putin has been invited to be a permanent member of the board. He has yet to accept, but many are noting that his $1 billion offer is at the very least a tacit acceptance. And by the way, that money goes into a fund controlled by, you guessed it, Chairman Trump. So countries are literally buying influence with the sitting U.S. president on the international stage. And it's not only completely legal under this charter, but it's perfectly ethical given that they are going to have an impact on effective peace governance around the world, unlike the incurably dysfunctional UN, which of course we have to pay dues every year or two as well. So what's really going on here? Why is this happening and why now? Well, this is where things get really fascinating because there's a deeper ideological shift at work here that most people are completely missing. There's a brilliant article that just came out in Asia Times titled Trump's Augustin Moment. It was written by the German politician Maximilian Krog, who's a member of the AfD party, the Alternative for Deutschland, the German Patriot Party. Their polling, by the way, as the number one party in all of Germany right now. It's an excellent piece that really understands the epic historical moment that we are in. Maximilian notes that for the last 75 years, the post-World War II international system has been based on principles rooted in what's known as the liberal international order. And that's an order that claimed to institute and protect the sovereign equality of states throughout multilateral institutions like the WTO, World Trade Organization, and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, which instituted the so-called rules-based order where all member nations were all under the same obligations and governed by the same protocols. Yeah, listener, the New World Order of the Satanics, one world government, one world religion, Satanism, all the elites just, having ever more firmly their boots on the back of our necks, and whatever freedoms we even hope to have, just gone with the wind. Okay, back to the reading. And then after the fall of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War, this institutional order attempted to spread what it considered to be universal liberal values, human rights, democracy, the whole package. And it didn't matter who was in charge at the White House, Bush or Obama. It didn't matter. This was the default vision for the world. Singular rules-based order instituted through the UN and the WTO and the IMF, and of course enforced by the US military. Now remember, listener, if you've listened to my podcast before, and I recently talked about it again, this great scouring that's happening on the earth realm right now, this great war, it's a holy war, it's a spiritual war between light and dark. It's a battle for consciousness. We're in the Second American Revolution. We've been in World War III. It's a digital war. I mean, it's just amazing that a lot of people still don't know this. It's like, I just can't convince them anymore, or try to. It's like, okay, just stay sleeping, I guess. But the U.S. military had been used. If you have to go back and listen to my controller series or look into other research for yourself. It's readily available about what the triangle of power really has been, what City of London, the financial center, really has been, that city-state satanic, what Vatican City has really been, that city-state satanic, what DC, District of Columbia, foreign land, invasion on human soil, what that city-state has been satanic. And our U.S. military had been used by the satanic global elites out of City of London, Crown of England, to do their empire building. And we had been brainwashed into like, yeah, America's doing great things, and the rest of the world were smirking like, why don't Americans know the great evil that's being done in their name and with their military? And we really didn't know about it. So a third of our military, if not a little bit more, had been satanically infiltrated. And that's still being cleaned out a little bit. Even though the recent, when Pete Hegseth had gathered all those generals in that, I think that was in September, that big gathering, a lot of them were taken off, were frog marched off for treason and crimes against humanity. Those are capital offenses. And he basically told the rest of them, straighten up and fly right, or that's your path to go. You can just go to Gitmo, because we're not tolerating any more dark, foul, satanic, treasonous nonsense anymore. You have to be on the side of the constitutional republic. You have to be in alignment with what is goodly and godly, and not be hatching all of your satanic, like a James Bond villain, Spectre type, world domination nonsense thing. So anyway, but the military, God bless the military. I'm so thankful and grateful for them. And most of the darkness has been cleaned out. Okay, back to this reading. But here's the problem. That system was always a facade. This is something that's being openly discussed more and more on the international stage. That system never actually existed. Small countries never ever had anywhere near actual power with great powers. The UN Security Council proved that the rules-based order, as it turns out, was really nothing more than an order, just hegemony, wrapped up in the language of international law. The US military, our boys were enlisted as enforcement mechanisms behind this liberal globalism. What Trump is doing here is he's ripping off the mask. I think this is why the bullies in Brussels and the demons in Davos were so patently shocked in all of this. Trump, he is loudly saying the quiet part out loud. He's not just saying the quiet part out loud. He is shouting it. Power matters more than paperwork. This is the very essence of political realism. No more pretending that the liberal international order was an objective legal framework. No more pretending that the UN was ever anything other than a vehicle for great power politics. No, the world is reorganizing around grand, great civilizational power blocks, and power, raw political power, is going to recalibrate this world, and it's going to end up smashing the liberal international order to pieces, which in many respects is already done. And here's why Maximilian is calling this Trump's Augustin moment. It's very fascinating if you know your history, but I'm going to say to listeners, God bless Dr. Steve Turley, but you know, what he's saying here is correct, but we know history is his story. Our history has been so corrupted and ridiculous. Our history books should be thrown in the garbage. We really need to have a brand new curriculum through all of our schools and colleges and universities and everything else, because we've really been taught a whole bunch of hooey. Yeah. The Roman Emperor Augustus didn't abolish the Roman Republic. Instead, he claimed to have restored it. He kept the Senate, he kept the councils, he kept the old Republican offices, but he concentrated all real power into his own hands through a series of legal maneuvers that gave him what was called the Imperium Proconsulare Maius, the Supreme Military Command, and what's called tribunician power, the ability to veto anything. So he continued to look like a Republican magistrate, but he was in fact an emperor in all but name. Similarly, Trump isn't formally dissolving the UN. The UN still exists, but now it's going to be increasingly subservient on the world stage to a parallel structure that actually gets things done under the personal permanent chairmanship of Trump himself. He's not rejecting international cooperation. He's just making it bilateral instead of multilateral. He's not abandoning alliances. He's just making them transactional. And I'm going to interrupt here to say, yes, get some skin in the game, people. All these countries that have been making the United States of America pay everything for them, like pay all their NATO dues and defend them and do everything and take all their products that they are importing into our country and not accepting our products and charging us such crazily high tariffs, like the 540% tariff Canadians have put on. Well, it's not the Canadian people, but the Canadian satanic government has put on American dairy products, things like that. So I say, get some skin in the game. Yes, transactional, check, check. Okay, now back to this reading. And most importantly, he's replacing the language of liberal. And I have to say, listener, whenever you see liberal, read satanic, like as the do as thou wilt creed and motto, because that's what that is. That's what that liberalism, it's really communism. Communism is really satanic. Like I say over and over again, Marx and Lenin were openly satanic. Look into it for yourself. Values with the language of deals that respect local cultures, customs, traditions, and civilizational realities. Russia can remain Russia. China can remain Chinese. India can remain Indian. Arabia can remain Arab. No more trying to export democracy or impose woke Western values on the rest of the world. No more NGOs funded by USAID pushing progressive gender ideology in conservative countries. Just realpolitik, just spheres of influence, just the recognition that America, along with Russia, China, and India, are superpowers, and superpowers have civilizational regions where their word is ultimately law. This is why Greenland and Venezuela and Panama, and yes, eventually Cuba, are all being consolidated in what's increasingly being called the Donroe Doctrine, right? The Donroe Doctrine. Listener, that's, Donald, Don, Roe, as in Monroe Doctrine, but it's the Donroe Doctrine. And it's not imperialism in the old sense. Great power regional spheres. America gets the Western Hemisphere. Russia gets its near abroad. China gets its historical sphere in Asia. And everyone stays in their lane, and the Board of Peace becomes the mechanism through which these great powers, with Trump as permanent chair, manage conflicts and broker deals between spheres. So here's the bottom line. The United Nations as we know it, as the center of global governance, is being systematically replaced by a Trump-chaired Board of Peace that operates on money, deals, and personal relationships, rather than votes, resolutions, and international law. This new rising, multipolar civilizational world isn't theoretical anymore. 35 countries just signed charter in Davos. The executive board is already meeting, and Trump is chairman for life. The Board of Peace isn't replacing the UN someday. It's replacing it right now. And the world order that emerges from this won't be multilateral, universal, or liberal. It will be bilateral, regional, and realist. Welcome to Trump's Augustan age. That's the end of that. Now, listener, I want to say, please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I appreciate you. Please let me know what you think. Drop a comment. What do you think about all this? I've got something lined up to go deeper than this, because I've heard from very good sources that China most likely will break up into 9 different parts for a period of time, temporarily, and then come back together again. There's a higher view of this that's very interesting, and I've spoken like I keep saying at length. If you go to my YouTube channel and look at the Controller series or the Real series, just scroll down and you'll see it. I talk about how Trump, when he did his first capitulation tour in 2017, 2018, and he went around to several world leaders and they capitulated to him because he had all the goods on them. And so all this satanics had to step down. And that's why they say you're watching a show. A lot of it, that part of it is a show, even though this is very real what's occurring. But President Trump, when he signed in Westminster Abbey, the great big book of deeds there, when he signed what was called the Virginia Company, which is America, but the global satanic royals out of Crown of England, out of City of London, still called America still called it the Virginia Company, because they still had ownership over us. Our revolution didn't go the way that we thought. So when he signed us out of that and retook back our constitutional republic and signed his name there, he became exchequer of the world, because the City of London, the 1 mile square financial district, not the whole London, but the 1 mile square financial district, which is a city-state with its own mayor, its own laws, its own rules, its own government, that had been the ruling power of finance for the earth realm. And his becoming exchequer was momentous, and I've spoken about that at length. I'm not going to go into it here again. Thank you so much. I end all of my clips with the closing prayer, and I'm saying, God bless all beings in all worlds. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, peace, peace, peace. God bless you all. I'm sending much love and big hugs to you and yours. I'll see you when I see you, and bye-bye for now.